But I would kind of like to bring our focus back to where we were last time you and I doing this show. We were looking ahead to the City game. I think we were cautiously optimistic because you were kind of thinking, well, maybe there'll be a roll-on of the really impressive Real performance and the Villa result, if not entirely performance. But what happened was, Jan, there was a hard reset to the shambles that had pretty much been the case for an awful lot of the performances this season. And if we're being honest, and I think most people are starting to really put this together, that this kind of form tracks back well into the end of last season as well, up to and including the period of time when we were getting the League One. So all of a sudden, after that City result, the questions started again, and they started in earnest. Everything from what's gone wrong to how can we fix this to is Arne's job under consideration, and so on and so forth. I found it very hard. I have to admit, I found it very hard to get my head around the what I could perceive as the sort of attitude on the pitch of the players in terms of second balls and hunger and desire and all those kind of things that are passé to talk about, but absolutely vital parts of the game. That's how I explained it to myself, because I needed to grasp onto something. And is it that simple, or sorry, is that what it is for you, or was it just something like City are simply a far superior team? Because I find that hard to believe, looking player for player.
But they aren't, though, are they, Trevor?
No,
I can't have. I mean, yes, City is in our one defeat in the last 14, not just league games, but in all competition, and they're looking okay, but they are heavily being driven by Erling Haaland and his goals. And I just don't think, back in the day when we went there and if we got turned over, I'd go, yeah, but, Ederson at that time was one of the two best goalkeepers in the world, and Kyle Walker and Vincent Kompany and De Bruyne and Rodri at his best, and Mahrez and Aguero and whatever. And you go, it's a risky run, isn't it? Because that's a really, really good team, isn't it? I don't have that feeling now. Hence the reason that when we did the preview show to the Manchester City game, although I wasn't convinced that Liverpool had turned the corner, but I thought, if we don't believe in it now, after the Aston Villa and the Real Madrid game, when are we actually going to believe in them? When are we actually going to think, I think this might be moving in the right direction? Hence the reason that, as you said, we thought we might be able to get a result, but it was shambolic. It was a no-show. Everything that you wanted. And in the preview show leading up to when we were at the ground on the day, we were talking about last year when we beat them twice 2-0 at Anfield and at the Etihad, but especially the game at the Etihad where we just toyed with them. It was like we were just so far superior in terms of running power, in terms of our tactics. We played without a central striker, and we played like a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4, and we just ran all over them. And I thought, well, we can do this again, But within 5 minutes, Trevor, you knew, didn't you? We'd hardly kicked off, and you went, "What is this?" What? I mean, I just couldn't recognise any of it. And I know there's, the penalty, and then you get away because he saves the penalty and whatever, and obviously the Van Dijk goal and all that. But I don't think you're doing your job, Trevor, if you're hiding behind those. I think there was more to it than that, and we have to accept that. When we go again, I mean, the next two games we play in the league, that's against teams placing 18th and 19th, West Ham and Nottingham Forest, isn't it? But it just doesn't look right, Trevor. None of it looks right.
No, and I think the technical term for the refereeing incompetence, stroke bad luck, and the performance, I think scientists call it a clusterfuck. But I was looking at it there, and I was trying to work out myself as I'm listening to you. I mean, how do you even go about analysing it from a fan point of view? And as I come back to the thing that you just said. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And so it's not popular to say this. And maybe it's a bit, I don't know, too easy. But for me, I always wonder what's the atmosphere like in the squad? How are they getting on? How are they gelling? Famously, under Klopp, we've always had this sort of unified thing going on, very much everyone together. And we seem to have a happy camp last year. And obviously, the lads have had as I said earlier on, very pointedly, noticeably in Robbo's words, the lads have had this tragedy to deal with, and we could see how it's still weighing heavily on the likes of him. But this seems as sort of a broader kind of malaise altogether, and I wonder how it's not, how this disjointedness, where it's coming from, really, I suppose is the question. And it does come back to that bigger issue that, you know, knee-jerk people were talking about after 2 defeats. But I think sensible people are saying now, without feeling like they're being disloyal, when do you start having the chat about whether or not Arne has maybe lost the plot here, or perhaps, like I said at the start of this rambling point, lost the dressing room? Is that something that's possible?
It will be eventually. I mean, all these things. So here we are now, 2 days before the Nottingham Forest game, and of course the manager is not under any kind of pressure. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. He's not under any kind of pressure. You know, if you don't beat Forest at home and you have another below par performance, another performance where it doesn't look right, I think you're entitled to ask the question, is that, and that's what frustrates me more than anything, Trevor. I'm not a football genius by any, but you know, sometimes when we haven't been doing so well, and you look at the team and you go, yeah, but if we did this or did that, I think that would work. Or if we put him in, or in most cases, sometimes we also had to say, Trevor, but we need to buy maybe this or that or whatever. And you could kind of find a solution. I'm looking now and I'm thinking, I'm not sure how I want this team to play. I'm not sure how I want this team to be set up. One thing I am sure of, I know Carragher's come out and talked about we need to sign somebody in January, otherwise we might miss out on Champions League football altogether. I'm nowhere near that. And I think we're going to find it difficult to actually sign somebody who technically would be good enough to go into our strongest 11, you know. So it's not as if I'm sitting there screaming out for signings, but it's not as if I'm sitting out there screaming out and going, you know, this is the way forward. Robbo as a left back is the way forward. As to Kirkus, is that the way forward, Trevor? I mean, 2 months ago we spoke about this, and I went, I'd rather we go with the new boys because they're the future, and we make that work instead of taking a step back. But he looked a good decision to take a step back when we beat Aston Villa and Real Madrid. But then at Manchester City, he looked horrendous, didn't he? So I'm not talking about Rob. I'm talking about the whole setup. Looked horrendous again, didn't it? You know, people were saying to me before the game, what about Florian Wirtz? And I said, well, if he doesn't play now, when does he play? He's just had his best game against Real Madrid. So if he doesn't play today, what's the boy going to think? You know, what do I have to do? Do I just play in the Champions League games, or, you know, can I play? The only thing I will say is, Trevor, is that there's a massive, massive difference for this team playing away in the Premier League compared to playing at home in the Premier League. And that's an issue, because that was the first problems we had in the early 90s when Graham Souness took over, and he brought that whole cluster of new signings in who were all inspired by playing at Anfield. And we were still a good team at home, you know, but away from home, you know. And I look at this team and I go, we're not built for playing away from home, Trevor. And we're not built for playing away from home.
That's a really, really interesting observation, and it's lovely to tie it into your own example from the past as well. I think that makes it real for people. And when you factor in as well, people have done the sums in the fortnight that we've been off away from the show, and they've analysed how Liverpool play against long ball or long passing teams. I don't need to spell out for you, Jan. You know yourself, you've seen that the eye test will tell you we're not good in those situations. And if anyone thinks that old Dicey isn't getting the lads to warm up their launches for this game at the weekend, you don't know anything about football or Sean Dyche. And everyone will be doing that. The only one who didn't do it when he had the opportunity to do it was Aston Villa's Unai Emery, who decided, you know what, I'm just going to play ball against these because, you know, reasons. And that worked out great, didn't it? So we're just going to have to brace ourselves for that. And before I get to Florian Wirtz and where he should best operate, I wanted to ask you about something you mentioned there. The January window is coming up. We'll undoubtedly keep coming back to this, but we have to mention this one because Antoine Semenyo is being linked with Liverpool very, very strongly. He has a £65 million clause in his contract. and apparently wants away from Bournemouth, and apparently wants Anfield. Arsenal are also being very strongly linked with the player, and you could see that happening. Apparently they have to move on, I think, Martinelli in order to make that move happen for Semenyo. And again, you could see that happening too. But the strength of the rumours linking Semenyo to Liverpool, I find it fascinating, Jan, because there's obviously something to it. And we know that we did look at him in the past. And does he move the needle for us? How many players do we want to operate from the left-hand side, for the love of Christ? And, you know, if you were to list your order of necessity, I'm sure you would start with maybe one of the full-back options, certainly a centre-half, and certainly a defensive midfielder who is capable of progressing the ball from deep. They would surely be our priorities. We look pretty decent elsewhere. It's just lads are underperforming. I find this one really weird. What's your take on the Semenyo story?
Yeah, I mean, my take is that we've got to be careful we don't become the new Real Madrid, in that we think we build from the front. You know, it's old-fashioned, it's boring, but you build from the back. This is, you know, we talk about structure. How does the front five work if the rest of the team doesn't work? You know, so again, we neglected, to a certain extent, we neglected those areas in the summer. And I have to be honest, Trevor, we all thought we might get away with it. Yeah. We all thought we got a lot of quality, and if we can did what, or if Arne Slot can do what we did last year in terms of keeping them all fit, we might get away with it. But we're not getting away with it, and we're not getting away with it because we picked up a few injuries. But we're also not getting away with it because the lads are not hitting their level, and that's a massive problem. And so yeah, I was watching something before about somebody talking, and he was a neutral, and I thought he was very good at the way he analysed things. And again, it's kind of this: where is the midfield? You know, where is our midfield? It's all very good. We're criticising Van Dijk and we're criticising Konate, but where's our midfield? You know, where are we? Isn't so? You know, Jordan Henderson, a young Fabinho, whoever it is, we need somebody who's totally different to the ones we got. That's for sure. Because I cannot, Trevor, at the moment, give you a midfield three that will carry us from now to the end of the season and get us where we want to go. Guaranteed, yeah.
Well, what about if we could get, and again, the season is running out and we're running out of time, and it gets a bit cliched to say Florian Wirtz will be a great player for Liverpool and all this kind of stuff. But what about a situation where we actually do get a revived McAllister, a better Gravenberch in better form, and Sabazai pulling up trees like he is? Would that be enough? And maybe Curtis Jones doing bits, 3 from those 4 going forward as our platform, if we're lucky enough to keep that. You don't think that's enough?
I just worry, Trevor, in that setup, we have weakness that the opposition have exploited. I think the opposition looked at that. They looked at our midfield option and gone, on their day, and if we allow them to do what they want to do, they're going to take some stopping in it. But they have weaknesses, you know. So whether that's where we allow them, we allow them to get into our own half, we give him possession of the ball, and then we know who. This is the thing, and you know who has touches. You know how Gravenberch plays, yeah. He plays. Considering he's a 6, he plays with high risk on the half turn and whatever. Isn't he? I mean, and opposition draw him in. So I think they're looking and they're thinking in the midfield options that he's got at the moment, and we can include Florian Wirtz in that to make it 5. Liverpool definitely have weaknesses, and I think the opposition have seen that, and they've gone. I quite look forward to playing against Liverpool's midfield because you'll get your moments. You'll get 3 or 4 moments in every game, and that's a lot of moments in this Trevor. You know, I mean, just take the other week or the other month when we went down to Crystal Palace and lost 3-1 in it. They created 7 big chances against us, 7 big chances, because they just ran straight through our midfield because Glasner had seen something and he's gone, these are the moments and we've got to make the most of it, you know. And I just think, I don't know how we can eradicate those weaknesses because of the way that the players need to play. McAllister is a great player, but he can only play one way, really, can't he? That's the way he plays, and you know you can't ask him. You can't ask him to go and sit as a 6 and do a different job in it. He is the way he is, isn't he? You know what I mean? So I worry about the weakness that we have in our midfield players.
Couldn't agree with you more, and it's probably no surprise we're being linked with the likes of Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson, and I think in the ideal world, I'd be saying, why not both, honestly, because I think they're the type of players that we need 100% in this team. To get back to the original point of this segment, then, if we're going to look at the season going forward, it's, I guess, we're not going to recruit in midfield because the money would be incredible.
Yeah.
So if that, assuming that this window passes us by without any recruitment there, and we have to go with 3 from those 4 that we mentioned, with Wirtz operating on the left, surely for the rest of the season as part of a nominal front 3, do you see this? Do you see a centre back getting signed so we can go to 3 at the back and change it up to accommodate him in some different shape, or do you see us just trying to forge on with some form of 4-3-3 with Wirtz operating in that left hand side, free-ish attacking role?
So the 2 centre halves we have at the moment, I don't know how they would work in a back 3. Virgil and Konate, I don't know how they would work in a back 3. It does disappoint me slightly that the Margay sort of it's not really the first story you hear, is it? And it should be the first story you hear, isn't it? Because of the injury to Leone and whatever. So I'm not sure. Arne Slot, for my money, is a 4-3-3 manager. That's how he sets his team up. If they think that Florian Wirtz will make it in the Premier League, I think they got to go with him. Yeah, you just got to go. Listen, we got to go with him. Yeah, we all, sounds horrible, isn't it? But we've also, when I was there, had to slightly carry somebody until they found their feet. You know, where you kind of go, well, all right, you know, he's not 100% there, so we'll carry him and we'll get by, isn't it? So if the decision is, and I know it's a big decision to make for somebody who costs 116 million, but if they're still 100% confident this boy's got to make it, then we got to go with him, haven't we? We got to, okay, there's only one place you learn, yeah? Because, yes, he's young, but he's not a kid, is he? You know, he's played for Leverkusen. He's the main guy in the German national team, isn't it? You know, so we don't have to protect him as such, and, you know, mentally, he should be prepared for what the Premier League and the Champions League, the top of the Champions League brings, isn't it? So if they still feel you've got to run with him, I think you've got to run with him. Is that wide on the left? I've seen him play some wonderful games wide on the left. You know, I just sometimes worry. I just on Sunday against Manchester City, he's in there in that area, and if I'm thinking they ain't going to give him any space. You know, the right back. I know he's not a right back, but he's a good athlete, and Nunes, and he was never going to give him any space. And if he come inside, and Ruben Diaz is stepping into him, and then you got Nico Gonzalez. You know, and to be fair to Nico Gonzalez, he's a great player without the ball. He struggles a little bit with the ball, isn't it? But without the ball, he does a really good job, isn't it? So it's like, it's really, really, and it must be really frustrating for Florian Wirtz. And he's thinking, every time I sidestep somebody or find a bit of space, I'm just running into this massive big defender who ain't going to give me an inch, you know. Whereas in Germany, he was feeling people, wasn't he? And he was using that to his advantage. He's letting people get close. Come on, get closer, and feel them. And he's using that, isn't he? He's letting them get close in the Premier League. But if they don't nick it, somebody else, you know, because that's what you do in the Premier League, isn't it? Germany, there's a lot more man-to-man, and you follow your man or whatever. In the Premier League, basically, you are where the ball are. You know, you put pressure on the ball. So when Florian Wirtz has the ball and he has 4 or 5 touches, which he has sometimes, they know, don't they? He's feeling. Somebody else comes there and nicks it off him. And how often have we seen that, Trevor?